So, first trip with the podcast, it was nice. So we visit the aquarium, the CN Tower, not inside because I'm scared of height, but that's it.
It was awesome. First two podcasts in the books. We had an awesome conversation with Graham today. We talked about his journey of entrepreneurship, and we also talked about his new deal that he had with the government of Canada. So just an awesome conversation with a great guy.
Yeah, super interesting. We talked about LAUFT, the future of offices. Graham talked to us about how LAUFT is going to be like the Starbucks, but with office.
Yep.
So really interesting, this new type of business model around offices. So yeah, really interesting. So enjoy the episode, guys.
Here's to the bold thinkers, the risk takers, and the creators who dare to see beyond the ordinary.
The ones who challenge a rule, who aren't afraid of the unknown, and who know that greatness is born from taking risk. While others may question their path, they move toward what's next.
Skating to where the puck will be, not where it was. They don't let the no's or the not yets hold them back.
Because those who are bold enough to believe they can change the world are the one who do.
Welcome to the Purple Cow Podcast, where we celebrate the ones who make their mark on the world.
So how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, good. Very good. Very good.
You like Toronto?
Yeah, I like it. It's beautiful city. I think downtown is like spread, you know?
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's growing.
Yeah,
Right? Like if you got to go to the suburbs, you really would have enjoyed it. So
Yeah, like we were talking earlier, we talked about a bit of Montreal and Toronto off camera, but we felt like downtown Toronto was bigger than downtown Montreal, but less with less density.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
there was way more space to walk and parking, and then Montreal downtown, I feel like you almost feel like you're stuck in it. But
right.
I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Expand it anymore because that's
It's on an island,
Right.
yeah.
But what I love about Montreal is you have such character in downtown.
Yeah.
Just actually anywhere in Montreal has such character. Toronto has character too, but Montreal historical, old Montreal plateau.
Yeah.
I love it.
You speak French a little bit?
No.
No.
No, and I took French until just before university, and I remember coming back to class after summer. The teacher said, "Please write a paragraph on what you did in the summer in French," and that's when I knew I hadn't learned anything.
Yeah.
I apologize. I wish I did. I wish I
It's all right, man. So are you originally from Toronto?
No, I was born in Kingston, Jamaica.
Okay.
And I immigrated here in '78, and I've been in Toronto ever since.
Okay.
Nice.
So did you go to university in Toronto? Or?
I did. I went to York University.
All right.
And I wish I'd gone away. I wish I'd gone.
Yeah.
Montreal would have been nice. But
Yeah.
yeah.
McGill,
I
Concordia.
would have learned French,
Yeah.
so that would have been nice.
Yeah, right. Well, so we're gonna go around a lot of subjects today.
Sure.
And before that, we want to let you introduce yourself. So tell us what you do and explain to the people at home who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was actually in university. I started my first business. It was a hip hop clothing store called Urban DNA. Or sorry, no, that was my second business, D-Train. And we designed clothes, and we also provided a platform for other entrepreneurs, like other designers, to sell their clothes in Toronto. When I was 21, there weren't many places for designers or people who like the music to really have a voice or a place to connect with consumers. And so I created D-Train with some partners, and then we had our own molding line as well.
Nice.
And so I found myself designing the interior of the store. I was sewing patterns with my mom at home before we worked in manufacturer. So, serial entrepreneur. My next business was a advertising agency that I ran for 13 years. And then I started LAUFT 7 years ago. So,
And your early business looked quite like creative. So what made you switch from creative world to like the more office and corporate world? Because LAUFT, you can explain what LAUFT is. But,
yeah, and that's a great question. And it's actually something that probably will go off into a tangent. When you're young, like you guys, embrace that creativity, because that's actually, you know, you have almost zero context, and you're not hindered by, you know, responsibilities of life. And so you're like, hey, let's just go. Right. And so I was doing that. And I think what happened is, with the creativity, you'll get some hits, because in entrepreneurship, you'll always have your ups and downs.
Yep.
And you will inevitably come up with some real world challenges, whether it's, you know, do you have enough resources to keep the business going? Is it profitable? Have you really segmented your products properly? And so then it starts to challenge just being creative. You do it the second time with my second business, which is an ad agency. That was a way of saying, okay, well, I want my creativity to work, but I also want to monetize it. And so you go through that process as well. And then Loft was probably the culmination of everything, where you say, well, maybe we've got to be a little bit more corporate. We have to have something that really monetizes as well. And then somehow you have to bring your creativity out. So, you know, one way that we've been able to do it, if you take a look around at this event space that we have art on the wall.
Yeah.
So I've always loved art, and we partnered with, in fact, one of Toronto's, like, he's well known in the industry, Jabari Elliott. He has a street name, Elixir, but he had actually done our agency wall, say 23 years ago.
Nice.
But it was, how can you bring back that creativity, and how can you find a way to integrate your vision, creativity with your business? Is that?
Yeah, that makes sense. But how do you feel? Do you feel like you're still using a lot of this creativity you built, this creative sense of yours you built in the past in your present business?
So, and that's a great question. So it's amazing that we're sitting here today, because literally maybe over the last couple of weeks, it was trying to figure out how to bring that back in. Right.
Yeah.
So I know that we've done it. We've done it. I know that people see it when they come in, but I think personally, it's how do you embrace that creativity and say, no, it's still here. It never went anywhere.
Yeah.
You just maybe turned away from it for a bit, which I think I have. But now I'm saying, okay, no. If I really take a look at everything that I've done over the last 2 businesses, and now we're in the third, and if I think about what we've been able to achieve with Law, the creativity has always been there, and I just have to lean in and call it more to the front versus pushing it away. I think that answers it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love it.
Yeah.
Really good. We know what love is, but explain like what love is.
Love
Yes,
is?
what is love?
Wow. What's love got to do with it? No, love is. Oh, that's such a deep philosophical. That's such a deep philosophical question. Well, what is love for you guys, first of all, and then
Love?
Loft or love?
Love. Sorry.
That'll make a difference. That'll make a difference. Loft. Okay. Yes. Okay, loft.
Sorry.
Totally makes sense. I'm old, right? Okay, so Loft is, we call ourselves a work-life freedom company, right? And work-life freedom really is about how people can show them to be their best. And what would that look like when you have to take work and life? And most of us are doing it on a daily basis, right? And we set out to say we were going to rebuild the space between work and life. Yeah. If you really think about it, why do you do what you do? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Why do you want to create new things? Chances are it's because you say, okay, well, listen, I've got to earn a living, or I've got to be able to make money. But at the core of it, it's because I want to do the things that I want to do with the people who I want to do it with when I want to do it.
Yeah.
So that's about connection. The challenge is that most of us go into work, or we go into a business because we say we want to make a ton of money and we want to do all these things. And we forget that you're supposed to be building it for a reason, for yourself, to be the best version of yourself. We set out to build a company that would allow individuals and companies to to find the best way to work. So when I'm out in the world, I've used this quote many times. I've said that LAUFT is the Starbucks of workspace with an Uber-like experience. We leverage technology to take space, to create a network of spaces where people can collaborate, create, and work in the most convenient and professional way possible.
Yes.
That's what LAUFT is.
You founded Love in 2017, if I'm right.
2017, yes, correct.
And you said in one of your videos that the way of people working changed from, the early 2000s.
Sure.
And the COVID happened in 2020. So you were like 3 years ahead of your time because we've seen the boom in 2020 when people like work at their home, work in corporate office. And I think that at this time, the work life really started to change, but you created this company 3 years before, and like you were like ahead of the time that the boom happened.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think a lot of things that happen in life it's due to luck.
Yeah.
COVID was a blessing.
Oh, yeah, no,
for the world, but it was the largest social experiment in remote work by far, right? The world shut down because people could not go into that office. I don't think we were doing anything new because but what we did was we provided a tool that made it much easier for people to do something they were doing unofficially. So what that means is that in 2017 and before, remote work was already something that people we were doing. If you think about how companies were working in the summer, many of them had, they'd leave early on Fridays, as an example. I think they called it summer hours, where you would go in an extra hour early in the morning. You would maybe stay late an hour, but then Friday you'd be able to leave at half day. Yeah. I think that generally speaking, if you were to chase the data, you'd have seen that Mondays and Fridays were always light in the office. If you really looked at it, there were people traveling for business and going to see their clients. So I think that remote work always existed to a degree. I just think that we had said, okay, what would this look like if it was just an active part of our day and it's something that we acknowledge? Having said all of that, that's like anything. It's one of those solutions that we developed, and it was, people are doing this, but we need to create an official way for people to do this. Yeah. And so we did it. No one could have predicted that COVID would have said, hey, everyone needs to test this out for about 2 years. Yeah. Right. So we were very fortunate for something that was so unfortunate.
And when you started Love, how tough you think it would be to be where now you are?
You never know how hard it's going to be. I think that's part of why entrepreneurs are wired the way we are, right? We look at something and we say, well, this should exist, and why doesn't it? And we just jump in and we say, I mean,
build a plane
in a year, you're building the plane as you're flying, right? Like it's taken off and you're like, hey, no, it needs a wing. Oh, you need a pilot. Oh, okay. Yeah. But what happens is I think you just rush in, and that's part of it. Like you almost have to have the audacity to do it. And then I think the faster you can bring the right people around you, or the faster you can tie that vision and that, like where you want it to be, to reality, you could probably get there faster. The longer it takes for you to do that, it just starts to become hey, listen, I just gotta keep going and going and going and going and going and going.
Yeah. But how many times did it take you to say that you made it, that the office worked?
Like you mean
how many times did it take you to say that you made it with the office with
Made it work.
Yeah, made it work. Yeah. So how you mean this is working? This makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know many people who are entrepreneurs who feel like they've made it. I think you're always driven to you can see it's very hard to understand where that end is. Like what, like
So you
what is
don't think, so you don't think that you made it like today?
I think that we are, we were just about to open this, our new first location for the government.
Yeah.
And and it's something that I'm learning to do. And I think every entrepreneur does need to get to this point, but I think that I haven't been a good custodian of it. You have to get to celebrate the wins, right? And so I would say we've had an incredible amount of wins. We've had opportunities that, I value. I think that where I have a hard time, what I have a hard time with is sometimes sitting in those wins and stacking them up and saying, okay, like we're good, right?
Yeah.
I think we're always driven to do more and to chase, sort of, I see where we are with LAUFT, but I also see that LAUFT should be global. I see that LAUFT should be,
So we're not finished.
so we're not finished,
Not done
right? Yeah, yeah. Having said all of that, you're 100% right, Edward.
Yeah.
Like you should be able to celebrate the wins and understand that you're not defined by the win. The win contributes to who you are. So,
But talking about this, you said you celebrate the wins, and it made me remember a video of you saying when you announced the government building in Gatineau, you said you celebrate the win, but you expected it. How do you have such confidence in your new project, and how do you keep it?
yeah, so, I mean, that just might be, this is my third kid, I guess, right? And that's what a business is. But I think just like, I'm trying to find a good analogy for this, but, do you know when, have you ever had something like you wanted to do something and you just knew,
Yeah, gonna happen.
like this is just going to happen,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing for entrepreneurship. I think that, and actually anything in life, right? Like sometimes you might go for a job interview and you just say, I know I killed, like I crushed this interview.
Like
Or
being in the flow state?
you just in the flow state.
Yeah.
You just know. And I think that your vision, when something makes sense and it just becomes indisputable, you're just sort of like, okay, well, this is going to happen. And then you have to pull on that because there will inevitably be times that will challenge that flow state. So you have to be like, okay, no, I see it. It's vivid. It's in my head.
Yeah.
Right. I may not know exactly all the pieces and how to get there, but, I need to be keyed in on it.
Yeah. So do you sometimes feel doubt about your project, or you just don't let it affect yourself?
Well, I think everyone should, like, I think if you say that you never experienced doubt, I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
Hey, this is just my own opinion. I think that doubting is a natural, it's going to seep in there. But I think that if you doubt, you say, okay, well, why am I doubting this? What has the data demonstrated? Why should I doubt this?
Yeah.
Because doubting it means that you doubt yourself. So you sit there and you key in and say, no, the data has shown that I can deliver, I can make this happen. And, you work through that doubt and then you have better tools to get through it.
And yes, we all have our businesses of our own.
Yeah.
Beside the podcast. And I think that's so true because we have a startup in the alcohol business and
In alcohol.
in alcohol.
Okay.
So, sometimes
But nothing's here.
no, because it's
Okay.
like early startup.
I'll do prototypes.
Yeah, so in early March, April, we have the prototype in store. So
Amazing.
now we're working with our chemistry to finish it development.
Okay.
But come back later. But now we need to find 20 financement for the first production of 7,000 can. And in our pro value, we know we're gonna get it. But sometimes we got, I don't feel this meeting with the investor or the bank might work. So doubt, I think, is part of the process and the
But I think you have to trust yourself.
Yes.
You have to trust yourself. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if come up with the vision. I mean, the vision didn't exist.
Yeah.
So you sit there and you're like, okay, it didn't come from, like, it's real. Like, it's real in your head.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out how to
explain
engage
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Make this.
So I agree.
Yeah. And I'd like to go back to, you talked about your first business was about a clothing line, right?
It's called D-Trade.
Yep.
So,
So
clothing store in
Do
Dublin.
you wear it?
No, you know what? Someone asked me the other day and they said, do you have pieces from it? And, like this is a long time ago, right? It's interesting because whether it's from the agency, whether it's from the clothing store, maybe more in LAUFT that have more pieces, but I actually didn't hold on to anything,
No.
which is really a shame.
And does it make you sad or no?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I think what happens is, you know, sometimes you're just so focused on just
Driving.
going that you don't, again, celebrating the wins, right? Like this is, you know, connecting back to what you were saying. If you can celebrate the wins, you actually take stock and you say, okay, this is a marker. This is a marker. This is a marker. And I think that sometimes in entrepreneurship, you just are so focused on going, not celebrating the wins, that you sometimes miss those
Memories.
things. Yeah, those memories, right? It's like not taking pictures in your life. And then all of a sudden you're like, I was at that event.
Yeah.
But you have no picture of it, right? You don't even know.
And when was your clothing line?
So it's going to show how old I am.
Sorry.
Yeah. So it would have been 92, 93.
So there was an online shopping?
My friends, we had pagers.
So yeah,
No, there wasn't.
So
I remember. Oh
So-
my gosh, it's so cute.
so my question was, how did you market yourself and your brand? So because for us, it seems like so natural. Oh, we're gonna post on social media. That's right now. That's easy. That everyone can do it. So back then it wasn't like that. So I want to know what was your reality.
Oh, that's funny. I really am old.
You were 18 and he's 19.
Okay, great question. So possibly, if I had to think about it, we tapped in. I guess it would have been our social media. So hip hop was such a niche culture in Toronto. So it was a very small community. So you had maybe two radio stations that weren't commercial radio stations. You could only hear hip hop on community radio, which would have been your your university, not even MTV. Not even much music. So you're talking about our university radio stations where you had other students who were your age playing the music that you like. So you could tap in, and your community was so small that you could, reach out to someone and get on a show, or you get an artist coming to Toronto who is from the States would come to our store, wear the clothes, right? So we did our social media in a way, like our brand sponsorship, but it was very local, hyper local. And then by us being out in the community, being involved in shows and stuff like that, we were able to, I guess, amplify our voice, but it was a very small community. I think what's incredible about what you guys have today and have access to is, one, you can do something like start a podcast.
Yes.
Right? And it has the potential to reach people globally. Two, you can go on social media and again, go global. We were so regional and so hyper local. But having said that, in our local market, I think we were doing our version of social media.
Do you feel like it made your community closer and maybe more attached to the brand, the identity?
I think so. Because I think it would be, so think about what you're trying to do. I mean, social media would say that you're connecting with people and it would be building, people might see your brand and they say, okay, I want to buy this brand, but do they have a real connection and a real loyalty to it? I think what happens is it's like anything in life. It's, the three of you, truly connected to each other because you guys see each other.
Yeah.
There's a hyper local, you guys are consistent with your connection, or Is it the person that might be following you who's around the globe, but you never interact with them on a regular basis? Are you as connected to them?
Not really.
Right. Now, it doesn't mean that they might not do a transaction with you and you do money, but you make money that's selling something to them. But at the end of the day, like real connection, why you want to do this would be to build as many relationships like you guys have. And if you're going to do that, it probably will happen more local. And so I think we were able to do that. I know many of the people that back in 92 that I met doing this, I still know.
Oh yeah.
So,
Okay, I get it. Yeah. And talking about connection, where's the place of connection and how important is it in the workspace? Like in the office and...
I think it's incredible. I think, so we say we're building the Starbucks of workspace, right? Like we could put a loft very close to where people live. It's hyper convenient. It's that third option between the home and the office. The return to office debate, what you're hearing from many of the business leaders is they're saying that it is impossible for people to build connection if they don't come into the office, right?
Yes.
They're not wrong, because sitting down in a room with people does matter. Like we could sit here, we can look at each other in the eye, and you get body cues, and all of these things matter, right? You can feel the room, right? Like we're human beings and we're social by nature. I believe that where it misses the mark is they're saying you need to come back into the office because that's all they know. Like that's the only way. Like if you think about a business leader, how do you get that without people coming into the office? We believe LAUFT is that option, right? Because it doesn't mean that everyone needs to be in the same space. You just need the people that you connect with at work that you need to be interacting with. You guys just need to be able to find space to meet, right? Mm-hmm. And to do it in a way that respects the fact that you also have a life, that you don't need to commute an hour and a half. You don't need to, clock in at 9 and clock out at 5 and then miss your kid's game, or you can't go for dinner, or you can't enjoy life. We believe that, you can do both. Like you should be close to life, get together with colleagues, create, collaborate, work, and do that. So I believe it's incredibly important that people get into the same space and interact. I just don't believe that it needs to be. It doesn't require an hour and a half commute.
And LAUFT now has like 6 or 7 offices.
7. We'll have in the GTA. We'll have 8. When we launched one in Oakville, and it'll be 9 once Gatineau launches, which is for the government. And
that's nice. So it's pretty growing. And I have 2 questions for this. First, when you started LAUFT, was it like Airbnb? People come in your own the house and like working, and then you have this idea, or you just rent the space and make it that people can come. But how did it start out to get the idea of LAUFT?
So you heard my phrase, Starbucks on workspace, Uber-like experience. So there were 2 things that were happening. I was consulting at the time, and I would inevitably find myself I sort of paint this journey. I've painted it a few times. As a consultant, you go to a client's office, and so in Toronto, our traffic is horrible, right? Everybody knows this.
Everybody is working. We have almost 5 people.
Right. Like, you guys are driving back today. So you guys know, you are not looking forward to getting out of the city and getting across the city, right? So when I was consulting, if I had a client meeting in the morning, I would have to schedule my second meeting to allow for time to commute. I would also have to allow for, if the first meeting ran late, I'd have to, just anything that went wrong. So you might set a meeting at 9, and then you say, okay, I'm going to set a meeting at 2, just in case, if I have to get over to Oakville or I have to go to a suburb. But then what happens is that first meeting just goes off without a hitch. Finish in an hour, 45 minutes, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I'll drive out closer to where my second meeting is. And then you're thinking to yourself, well, okay, well, I should try to work.
Yeah.
Well, where are your options? Your options would be Starbucks or a coffee shop. If you maybe were traveling for business, it might be the hotel lobby or your hotel room.
Okay.
If you were, you know, in a hotel, you might be in the lobby. In an airport, you would be by the gate, right? So it just felt like we were doing the best that we could with some really bad options. You'd be in a Starbucks and you'd say, okay, is there a seat? Can I do a call? Can I, like, is the internet working? If you had to print something, like, okay, well, where do I print? Right? And so it just didn't exist in the market. And that was,
Okay, now I understand what you're saying. You want to be you are the Starbucks of the office.
Yeah.
And you are growing, like you say you are, close to opening your 9th store or 8th store, as you said.
well, when we do Oakville, that would
Yes.
be 8. And we count event as 1. So there's 2 locations here. So we have 7, 8 in Oakville, and then 9.
And- Or do you want to monopolize like the Toronto and the Ontario before going out of states or out of province or country, or what is like your growing strategy?
So I believe, and what we're seeing with the government location and the interest, that will be, and that's one of those huge milestones I should celebrate, right?
Yes.
I mean, and me too.
We're gonna talk about the government.
Yeah. I believe that there is some value and validation there that a large enterprise, and this is Canada's largest employer, if they're looking at something like this, it makes a lot of sense. There are a lot of other enterprise, private sector companies looking at it. I also believe it's a solution and a viable one for provincial and municipal. So my short-term goal would be to leverage the government location to see it expanded for other industries, but also nationally. And I'd love to dip my foot into, or have us dip our foot into the US market. And in the, let's say within a 5-year window, 3 to 5 years, I would love us to see us in the US and Europe.
Nice.
Right. I think it makes sense when you're traveling. If I was in the States, I would say, okay, well, where am I going to look?
Yes.
And I think Europe will make a lot of sense because we often hear about Sweden. There's like a lot of workspace differences from like Canada and the US. The Friday off, things like that. I feel like we hear it more in Europe. So
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that would be a great fit. And would you eventually you talked about being global. So you said 3 to 5 years, US and Europe. Is it a possibility that you could go even further?
Listen, I would love to see LAUFT. I literally would love to see LAUFT be a global brand. I'd love it. If I'm doing a search on the internet, I go like, hey, let's Google that.
Yeah.
I would love for LAUFT to be synonymous with modern work, how people would work and how employees would approach a job and say, do I have the option to LAUFT?
Mm-hmm.
Employers actually using that as an acquisition tool to say, hey, by the way, we can recruit talent in another continent because we can also know that we can put them into a LAUFT.
Yeah.
So I'd love LAUFT to be a tool that helps companies and individuals just find the best way for them to work wherever it is global.
Yeah. So make LAUFT become like more like a word than a brand. So
yeah, absolutely.
So like we say a Kleenex sometimes instead
That's
of
right.
tissue.
That's right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, it's a goal that we set out to, we wanted this from the very beginning, and we're pursuing it every day, and we believe that we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Not hope.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. We
When
will.
you've been in Montreal,
Absolutely. I got a great place for you guys to go.
Yes, absolutely. And talk us about the government deal. Like 13.8 million. It's a big, it's a big contract, and I've never worked with the government, but what I heard is like it's pretty tough and all
It's not easy.
it's not easy with all the rule and the all the process.
They take you to
Yes,
to make the deal.
Yeah,
it
so
must be so long and tough.
yeah, so we it has not been a quick process, but it shouldn't be, right? I mean,
Yes.
at the end of the day, you have a government that it's they're deploying taxpayer dollars
Yes.
to try to find a solution. So as a citizen, you should say to yourself, okay, well, we're glad it took a long time. They didn't just rush into it. But we won this contract in September of 22.
Nice.
That's 2 years ago.
Yep.
I mean,
Is it like a bid or?
it was a contract. It was there was an RFI, and it's all public knowledge. And then they released an RFP,
Yeah.
and we were successful on that RFP. We were awarded the contract in September of 22. There was an announcement about it. We were very excited, and it took 2 years to get to the point where we're about ready to open the first location. So, nothing is, but you guys know this, right? But
Yeah.
you guys are going on your entrepreneurial journey.
It's take time.
Nothing is as easy as you hope it will be.
Yes.
Um,
Like you have one of our mentor that said it. we budget the timeline. It's double everything, guys. And it's so true. Now we're seeing it like them. We
And even when we double it,
It's
like
sometimes
we are now.
Right,
now we're like
You're like, yelling it again.
So-
Yeah, but that's also, I mean, if it was easy, well, everybody would do it,
yes.
right? Like there would be a million lofts. There would
Yes.
be, well, there are a lot of beverage brands.
Yeah, we don't.
But the one that you guys will have, the one that succeeds, it's where you can find your sort of path. Yeah.
And for a lot, who's your big competition? Because we like us in our beverage world.
might
we know
not
that
want to name drop.
we have another term.
Oh, okay.
I never heard of I'm still young and I have a lot to learn, but I've never learned of another company like yours, and I've never heard of, at least,
Yeah.
except for love.
So listen, like there could be a lot of competitors in a category, right? And I think a lot of people can generalize and say, well, there are a lot of
Starbucks,
you
yeah.
out there. So I say this for you guys because you're doing alcohol, but it's going to be anyone. I mean, there are a lot of clothing brands,
Yes.
why are some successful than others? I think it comes down to the entrepreneurs, people leading it,
Yes.
and your approach and your commitment to your values and how you guys want to exist in the world. So you'll be successful and you just keep leaning into that. You'll find your followers, your clients, right? For us, there are competitors. I think a lot of people compare us to co-working.
Mm.
I would say that we are not necessarily a co-working space. We are a workspace experience that leverages technology
Yes.
to allow people to have the best work, like the way to show up for themselves. Our core essence, like when we think about, we don't put this on a post or anything, is we want to make life work. So we make life work. And what that means is that for a entrepreneur, they might need space to meet with their team that's cost efficient but really convenient. We can do that. We also have art layered into our event space. We created an event space because we knew that people need space, whether they're networking, whether they're doing a workshop, whether they are holding a private dinner. You can do it in here. We've had book signings in here. So how can you take space and actually just allow people to access it and use it the way they want? So having said all of that, we don't consider ourselves a co-working space. Many people would say that our competitors would be Regis, would be WeWork. There are a number of co-working operators that are around.
Yes.
And 100%, we have similar clients. the way we approached it is we were not going into, we're not a real estate company. So we don't do real estate arbitrage. Many co-working spaces and operators, the way they make their money and their business model is they will take out a master lease. They've negotiated the lowest rate for themselves over 15 years or 10 years or whatever it is. And then what they do is they sublease it. And there's a 100% a business model for it. Many of them are incredible. Like I know many of the operators and in Toronto, and they're just incredible, passionate entrepreneurs who serve a client that they have a need for this long-term office space, right? Like that isn't their own lease, but they can move into a co-working space. Totally makes sense. Our approach had always been convenience had to be a huge part of it. And we really wanted a network that was accessible and convenient. So can you always find a loft around an amenity-rich area? Can we be in shopping malls, which we are? Can we be in partnership with self-storage facilities, which we are for those e-commerce entrepreneurs who need storage, but they need a place to fulfill? Could we be in en routes as you're driving down to Montreal? Right. So I dropped that because I know
great. That would be great.
I know you guys
use it.
Right. Yeah, you guys would use it, right? So
if you have a phone call, just drive
right.
there.
Yeah.
So I don't know of another co-working space that's looking at the problem as it pertains to where the journey and where do we need to exist. And so I would say we don't have a competitor because I am not familiar with a team that approaches it with this much passion in terms of solving the problem. If you just look at it as space, co-working, we have competitors. Regis, WeWork, there are a number of operators in Toronto who do an incredible job. There's Workhouse, there's IQ offices. And many of those operators, I know them, and they're incredibly talented and their business makes sense for the client.
And like for this place, you buy it or do you rent it? How does it work? And if someone want to be a client with LAUFT, how does it work? Do we register on the application?
Yeah, you download the app or you can walk into the location and basically say, hey, listen, I need a workroom.
Yes.
If the three of you said, hey, listen, right after this, we're not driving out to Montreal now. We're going to grab a workroom because we're going to do some editing. You don't have to call ahead. You download our app. You find the closest LAUFT location. You say, I want a workroom and I want it from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And you're only paying hourly.
Yes.
So it's as flexible as it needs, right? We also have membership packages. So maybe you know that you need 5 days in the month. Well, you can buy a package for that. We basically have taken the space. And if you really compare LAUFT, the best example that I've ever had comes from our partner here in this location. Their business was parking lots. And I think when we first met, what was really in alignment was our business philosophy, because we really are like a parking lot. Think about a parking lot where you can take a space, small square footage, and you can say, okay, well, you pay hourly. Well, if you want monthly pass, we have that. By the way, we have car detailing in there as well. So in LAUFT, you're able to, if you want to get a coffee, you have opportunities to do partnerships with some of our neighbors. So we can just facilitate that experience, but we are very much like a parking lot.
So you said that you can partner with the neighbors, for example, coffee. So
absolutely.
Do you mean there's like a pop-up store? Or?
Yeah. So in this space, we have a pop-up location at the front, but we built our platform in such a way that we knew that space was the entry point. People could use a LAUFT and they can use it the way they need it, wherever they want it. That's the goal. But we located in amenity-rich areas because we know that wrapped around that experience is that people inevitably need to eat. You might need your dry cleaning done. You might need your car detailed. We can have, if there was a daycare or a school next to us, like you could go and work for 2 hours and maybe your kids are in school, or dry cleaning, as I said, like it's being dropped off or picked up, or your meetings being catered. So how can we, in our platform, integrate services that you would normally want around work, or using space, and how do you
Yeah.
make that fit come together?
I'm making a link with your clothing brand. We talked about community and it's really important.
It's about building.
Yeah, exactly. So, how important is it for you to, build your love around the community and like help maybe smaller businesses and pop up and stuff like that?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I realized that it had always been the vision from the beginning, and you had asked a question at the very beginning about like how you keep that creativity.
Yeah.
And so I think that one pattern that had always been part of the vision had been that we could be this conduit for local vendors and partners to connect with people who are working in the loft, right?
Yes.
And so it's incredibly important. On our wall in the main space, you'll see that we have emblazoned on the wall is locally grown, globally known. Like we believe that if you have lofts everywhere, you'll have this groundswell of people who use it, but who are able to connect with globally, right?
With that connection, you know, like you said, you are a big guy of our community too, and all those things. Do you think, or is it in your project to do like a Lincoln part 2 for the love community? Like you can link up and
It's like you guys are in my head. No. So, one thing that I had always said too at the beginning is LinkedIn can tell you who you work for.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it would be great if we could understand how people work, because I think to understand how people work, what their journey is, then you can actually provide solutions and tools for them that make sense. So how people work is people would like to be close to life as much as possible, and they would love to have convenience around the experience. So can we create that space that allows them to be their best, but allows them to plug back into life? I'd always thought that if we could understand how people work, what services, what tools, whatever technology they need wrapped around that experience to make their life better, then you're 100% correct. I think we close the loop for what LinkedIn from a technological point does, right? Like we built this physical space that allows workers to now say, okay, well, this is how I'm living. This is how I'm plugging into food and entertainment and all these other things. We would be the LinkedIn point too. And I think there are things that LinkedIn does that could be integrated.
But do you want to make an app for the user of love? Like, let's say I'm in the studio and it pop up a notification, and then like see it, and it's like, oh, Xavier's there, so I'm gonna go work with him.
So we do have a social. Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a social layer that's being rolled out where even if my colleagues, I'll know that they're working at this loft, and so I can join, or I can invite my colleagues, and we want to roll that out for every user. We had also said that there would be a future where you have a skills marketplace, right? So that if I'm a developer and I'm open for work or an opportunity, then there would be a great opportunity for a startup who is looking for a developer who is a loft user.
So like a freelancing marketplace.
So you would be able to connect people, right? Like, and I think what happens is that first you have to be able to provide the utility. You have to have the space. You have to have the network. You have to have value in the market. And once you're able to do that, then you can say, what would make your life easier? Like, what would help solve problems for you? And we have thoughts and a vision of that, but we do know that we'll roll it out when it makes sense for people.
Wow, nice. And you are part of an organization, Dream on, is it right? Foundation. Yeah. Dream on Foundation. Yeah, sorry. I did the wrong thing.
So Dream Legacy Foundation.
Yes, exactly.
Isaac Olawafi is the heads that up. He also is a managing partner in BKR Capital, who they're an investor in law, and so that's really where that comes from.
And we've seen that for the Black community.
Yeah,
I think tell us more about this and what they do for the community.
So with Dream Legacy Foundation, there's definitely a push for generational wealth, through real estate, through development, but just also in terms of fostering entrepreneurship and, mentorship to the Black community. Incredible organization. Isaac and his team are incredible. I've been, there to support and be on paths as they need it, but they've done a fantastic job.
That's nice. And if you could tell your younger self entrepreneur, like, what would you change of your entrepreneur pattern or journey? Are you proud of what you did with your journey, or would you change something, or tell your younger self, like, hey, be careful, there's a corner there, or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think always looking back, you could say, oh, wow, like if I did that, it would have been easier. I think where I am now in my life, I kind of sit there and say, I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't go through all of that.
Yes.
So I think that what I would say to my younger self is, maybe value your time, like value your time more, because time matters. There were days where, if I valued my time, what I would do is the things that needed to get done today, you do, right? Like you would say, okay, I need to get this to this financial threshold by such and such a day. These milestones really do solidify when you say, I don't have infinite time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
Yes.
makes sense.
Right? Where you say, well, I'm creative and I just want to do this. And sometimes you could just say, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
no.
an easy excuse.
It's an easy excuse. So I'd say value your time. And then I would say to my younger self that, understand your why.
Yeah.
So I talked about connection earlier, and I realized that, people that I still know in my life from those days, what these businesses really have represented for me, it provided so many great examples of connecting with people in a very real way. I think in my mindset back then, I didn't quite understand that and value it as much as I do today.
Yeah.
And so I would tell my younger self, hey, see these really great people that you met, see this great opportunity, like focus on that connection. And I think that your life will become you'll jump some steps.
Yeah, but
right.
Being an entrepreneur is pretty much working without counting the hours. In the beginning, you don't make much money with all the hours you put in. It's all expenses.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how would you quantify a balanced lifestyle? Because we often hear that, if you want to succeed, you gotta have a balanced lifestyle. And some other people will say, you gotta grind 24/7. Wake up at 4 a.m.
Right?
What's your opinion on
know
that?
why you're hustling, right? I always think you need to know the why. So I think there were days where I would work straight through the night, as an example, right? And you would just keep going and going and going, but you don't actually know why.
Yeah.
And I would really challenge that if you say, well, it's only because it's for the money only. I go back to what I said earlier. You want money, so you do the things you want to do because you want to do it when you want to do it. You can have all the money, but if you don't know who you want to do it, when you want to do it, then that means nothing, right? So understanding the why is very important. And if you sit there and you say, okay, listen, as an example, the three of you, what you're building right now, and you say, okay, we're going to go really hard, but it's because guess what we get to do together?
Yes.
That is much more rewarding.
Yeah. That's
right.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. And I think what happens is that sometimes the hustle culture is, I just got to go. So if you're having a bad day and you don't, then somehow we're just not connected in the same way. And that's a really, that's not necessarily the wisest way to build your capacity and success, if that makes sense.
And at the end of the day, it's not only about money, it's about the life experience you have while doing this and
the journey.
Yeah. I'm guessing that you saw like a lot of different things because you worked in a lot of different industries, like loft and clothing brand is pretty different. You also did ads, so like you saw a lot of stuff. And I don't want to talk for you, but I think that's gonna be pretty that's gonna give you some type of fulfillment. Like you saw a lot of things, so
Yeah, I had a conversation with a close friend yesterday about the very same thing, and we were talking about the fact that when you take stock, it goes back to what you said before about celebrating, right? When you really you have done a lot, and so to understand, like I'm going to touch on so many different things. I'm gonna, fashion, advertising, and now workspace. All of it, common thread is storytelling,
Yes.
right?
yeah, I get it.
That's power.
And so if you understand that your role or your skill set that you're actually sharpening is storytelling, as an entrepreneur, you are helping people understand the journey that they're taking, right? Like, so you were saying, I'm giving you this solution.
Yeah.
And when they use it, they're like, yeah, this helps make my life easier. This service makes sense. Or this helps me feel rewarded. Then you've helped them through that story. And we're all storytellers as entrepreneurs.
Did you have like when you were younger? Did you have like a source of inspiration, like a person or maybe a quote or whatever?
That is a great source of inspiration. Do you know what? Like, I guess when I was younger and I was doing the clothing store and the fashion, it was because it was hip hop. And I was incredibly inspired by people that were my age, right?
Yeah.
Down in the States who had started this culture, like this, it felt like so authentic, and they were able to express themselves in a way that, they were making a living, but they were just being them, right? Like doing them. And so I think I was just inspired by that entire hip hop culture. And I was like, I know I love it. I know I want to be part of it. How do I find my space in it? And I was able to do that. So I would say it wasn't necessarily one person. It was an entire thing, because you have to understand, to me, hip hop was like me, like you felt like this could be me, like I could be part of this. Like, how would we create our own scene here? Like, that was the inspiration.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about a lot of things, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
really appreciate it. Learned a lot of things, and
We will officially, if we come back to Toronto film a podcast and we don't have a space, we will go.
yeah, for sure.
And you guys
For sure.
let me know, because you guys have an open invite for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you guys so much.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.